Oh, listen to that. Rain all day and not one good reason to go out in it. I checked. So it's just us in here, the lamp, the tea, and something lovely to read while the world gets gently soaked. This is my favorite kind of day, honestly. Come in out of it. Let's read. New chapter. New everything, really. We're starting a story together, Guardians of Atlantis by B.T. Bradley. It's science fiction, which I know is a bit of a swerve for this little nook, but stay with me. Under all the deep-sea dread, it's really about a brother and a sister, and I'm already far too attached to them. We'll take it a piece at a time, cozy as ever. So, shall we? Guardians of Atlantis. Book 1, The Deepening. Written by B.T. Bradley. Prologue. The last dive. 3 years ago. The pressure suit's seals checked out. Nereus Meridian's hands moved through the inspection routine by memory. 3rd seal from the collar, 4th seal at the wrist joint, emergency release on the left hip. Each one tested, each one secure. His hands didn't shake. They'd stopped shaking an hour ago, somewhere between accepting what he was about to do and accepting he might not return from it. The dive platform stretched before him into pre-dawn darkness. 300 feet of reinforced crystal and steel suspended over water he couldn't see. Behind him, Atlantis was waking. He could hear the morning bell echoing across the tiers, could imagine Renan curled around one of those navigation texts he loved, could picture Thea finishing her pre-dawn drills because she pushed herself harder than any instructor required. Neither of them knew where he was, what he was doing, what he'd discovered. He intended to keep it that way. Sir, Lieutenant Cass's voice carried disapproval in its careful neutrality. She stood at the equipment station, her posture regulation perfect, her expression anything but. 6 years she'd served under him. She knew when he was lying. The Council's directive was explicit, she continued. No solo operations beyond the thermocline barrier. No exceptions. Nereus finished checking his seals and looked at her. Young enough to still believe the rules meant something. Old enough to know when they didn't. The energy signatures are unstable, he said. I can't risk a team. Then don't risk yourself either. A reasonable suggestion, a sensible one, the kind of advice he'd given his own captains 100 times. He pulled the waterproof case from his equipment locker instead of answering. Inside, 3 years of research, every forbidden text cross-referenced, every anomaly documented, every piece of evidence carefully encrypted. The truth the Council was either too blind or too terrified to see. If I'm not topside in 6 hours, he said, pressing the case into her hands, deliver this to my children, not the Council, not Thalos, my children. Cass's fingers closed around the case. Captain Nereus. He met her eyes. If I don't come back, you can use my first name. Don't. Her voice cracked slightly. Don't talk like that. 6 hours, Lieutenant. If I'm not back, you follow protocol. Alert Commander Thalos. Deliver the case. He paused, choosing his words with the care of someone who might not have another chance. Tell Renan his questions weren't foolish. Tell Thea that courage isn't the absence of fear. Another pause. Tell them both I'm sorry I couldn't explain why. He climbed into the submersible before she could argue. The hatch sealed with a hiss of pressurizing air. Through the viewport, he watched Cassa step back to the safe zone, the case held against her chest like she could protect its contents through force of will alone. The crane mechanism engaged, the world dropped away. 300 feet of falling through darkness, then impact, the submersible rocking violently as spray exploded against the viewports. The cables released. Nereus engaged the descent engines, and the vessel began its long drop into the abyss. The surface receded above him. The crystal spires of Atlantis caught the first copper light of dawn, each tier cascading down the mountainside in elegant progression. He could see it all from here. The archives where Renan spent too many hours, the training grounds where Thea pushed herself too hard, the small apartment on the 3rd tier where his children slept in separate rooms because they didn't know how to share grief. He'd broken them. Not intentionally, not through cruelty, but broken them nonetheless by dying before they were ready, by leaving them with questions they'd spend years trying to answer. If he died today, when he died today, he'd break them again. But if he didn't try, if he didn't go, everyone would die. Slowly. Inevitably. In 50 years or less, when the seal finally failed and reality itself began to forget how to cohere. Better to break his children than doom them. He descended. The pressure gauge climbed. 1,000 fathoms, 1,500, 2,000. The submersible passed through the thermocline barrier and temperature dropped sharply despite the suit's heating elements. The world outside the viewports transformed from blue to green to black, the absolute darkness of depths where sunlight had never reached. His helmet display flickered. He tapped it twice out of habit before remembering the interference was expected this deep. The scanner array showed exactly what it had shown for 6 months. Massive energy signatures pulsing from the rift floor with the steady rhythm of something alive. Or something that had been alive once. Or something alive in ways that shouldn't be possible. 2,500 fathoms, 3,000. The scanner readings spiked, then he saw them. The ruins emerged from darkness like the skeleton of some vast creature, half buried and forgotten. Columns of black stone rose from the sediment, carved with script he recognized from the forbidden texts he'd spent 2 years studying in secret. Pre-sundering architecture, which meant they were at least 3,000 years old. Which meant every official history was a lie. He brought the submersible down on what had once been a street, landing struts settling into sediment that hadn't been disturbed since the civilization that built this place had tried to destroy all evidence it existed. Through the viewport, a processional lined with columns, each carved with scenes that made patterns in his mind even as they made his stomach turn. Atlanteans bowing before things with too many limbs, tribute being given, power being received. And beneath it all, inscriptions in old Atlantean script that he could just barely translate. When the dead is forgotten, the deep will remember. His hands moved to the recording controls. Captain's log supplemental. I've reached the coordinates from the energy signature. The Black Spire Rift contains extensive pre-sundering structures in direct contradiction to council records. His voice sounded steady in his own ears. A lie, but a good one. The architecture matches descriptions from Archive Section 7. The texts Elder Counselor Thasian ordered sealed 15 years ago. Whatever our ancestors did here, whatever they tried to bury, it's real. He exited through the airlock. The pressure hit him like a physical force even through the suit. Millions of tons of water held back by nothing but technology and fading magic. His external lights carved narrow tunnels through darkness so complete it felt solid. He swam toward the nearest column. The relief carvings told a story in images because words would have been insufficient. Atlanteans and positions of supplication, things rising from depths even greater than this. An agreement made, power granted, a price promised. The deep pact, he said aloud, his voice hollow in his helmet. The forbidden histories weren't allegory. He followed the processional deeper, each column revealing more of the narrative. The empire rising, the tribute paid, 1,000 years of bargains kept, then rebellion, then betrayal. The final column showed the abyssal forms retreating into darkness, but the inscription beneath was perfectly preserved. When the tribute ends, we return. A sound rolled through the water, low, resonant, too purposeful to be natural. Nereus stopped at the temple entrance, carved to resemble some deep-sea creature's mouth, all teeth and threat. Beyond, only darkness. Every instinct he'd honed over 30 years of service screamed at him to return to the submersible, to ascend, to take what he'd learned and run. But 3 years of watching energy readings climb, of seeing captains disappear, of tracking patterns the council refused to acknowledge, 3 years of knowing something was wrong had led him here. If he turned back now, his children would inherit a city built on comfortable lies. And when those lies failed, they'd die ignorant. He swam into the Leviathan's mouth. The throne room was vast enough to swallow his lights. He could feel its scale more than see it, the way sound echoed, the way water moved. Something massive occupied the center. His lights found it. The figure on the throne was 3 times Atlantean height. Its lower body fused completely with volcanic glass that seemed to drink in light rather than reflect it. Living coral colonized its arms and shoulders. Barnacles clustered where joints should be. And its face, what remained visible behind a mask crafted from predator bone, representative of something that had once been humanoid but had spent so long becoming something else that human was merely its origin, not its definition. The eyes blazed green. When it spoke, the words bypassed sound entirely. They formed directly in Nereus's mind with enough force to make his vision blur. Captain Nereus Meridian, you come seeking truth about what your council has forgotten. Nereus forced himself to speak despite the pressure in his skull. What are you? I am what remains of the first advisor. What volunteers become when they bind themselves to hold back entropy. The figure's eyes pulsed brighter. I am the bound king, and I am dying. The deep pact was real, is real. Your ancestors made bargains, received power, promised volunteers to maintain the seal that holds back the Leviathan. The king's voice carried 3 millennia of exhaustion. For 1,000 years they kept faith. Then they forgot. Then they lied. Now the seal fails, and in 50 years, perhaps less, everything ends. Nereus's emergency beacon was in his hand before he'd consciously reached for it. I have to warn them. Your council already knows. The words hit like ice water. They suppress the histories. They classify the texts. They silence those who ask questions. A pause. They will kill you for what you've discovered, unless you join us. Join? Nereus stared at the massive figure, at the throne it was fused to. You want me to? Volunteer, transform, bind yourself to the seal as I did, as the others did. Give up everything human to hold back entropy for another few centuries. The king leaned forward as much as his fusion allowed. Or return to your city and watch everyone you love dissolve when the seal breaks. Nereus's mind raced. Transform. Become like this thing. Fuse with volcanic glass and hold back forces he couldn't comprehend. Leave his children orphaned. Abandon everything. Save everyone. No, he said. The bound king was silent for a long moment. Then, your son will answer the same. Your daughter will refuse as well. You are all too human to accept what must be done. There has to be another way. Perhaps. The king shifted, throne groaning. The old protocols, from before the binding ritual. Research conducted at the Coral Garden seeking ways to adapt without damning volunteers to this existence. If those protocols still function, if they can be recovered, perhaps your people can save themselves. Where? I will give you coordinates. The king's eyes blazed. But your council will ensure you die before you can use them. They want the seal to fail. Someone benefits from Atlantis's ignorance. Before Nereus could respond, the water changed. He felt it before he saw it, a wrongness that made his stomach turn and his mind recoil. The stone beneath him stopped being solid. The water stopped flowing. His suit's readings went mad as physical constants simply ceased to apply. For 3 minutes, just 3 minutes, reality forgot how to cohere. Then the bound king reasserted control, and the world snapped back into place. Nereus found himself on his knees, vomiting into his helmet despite the suit's systems trying to compensate. His hands shook, his vision swam. Every cell in his body screamed that what had just happened was impossible. That is the Leviathan, the bound king said. Not a creature, a force. Entropy itself. The unmaking that predates all making. And that was merely the smallest touch of its influence, what seeps through despite the seal. A pause. Imagine if the seal breaks completely. Nereus wiped his mouth, his hands still shaking. How long? 50 years, perhaps less. The bound king transmitted coordinates directly into Nereus's suit computer, too fast for conscious reception, embedded in the hardware itself. Research notes, location data, everything Nereus would need to find the Coral Gardens. Everything the council would kill him for possessing. Go, the king commanded. Seek your protocols, hide your evidence. When they kill you, know that your children will continue what you began. They will face the same choice I offer you now. Perhaps they will be wiser than their father. The king's voice shifted, quieter. Less the throne, more the thing inside it. Captain Meridian, one thing before you go. Nereus stopped. His suit's ascent primers were live. He had seconds, not minutes, and he spent them. Before they bound me to this throne, I had a name. I had a mother who sang while she braided nets. I had a younger brother who could not whistle and practiced every night on the harbor wall. I liked olives. I was afraid of heights. If you live long enough to speak of me to your children, tell them I was Carry-On, a harbor master's son, afraid before I was this. When they come, and they will come, I would like to be remembered as a man who was frightened, before I am remembered as the thing that spoke to their father. Nereus could not speak. His hands on the suit controls had gone very still. In 3 decades of deep water command, he had never heard a request like this, had not known until that moment that he had been braced for anything except grief. "Carry on," he said. Quiet, careful, like he was sealing it into a bottle and throwing it into a current that would carry it to a shore he would not reach. "I will try." Shadows moved in the water. The abyssal guard materialized, dozens of them, their mineral armor catching his lights, weapons glowing with that same sickly green bioluminescence. "Go, while I permit it." Nereus swam back through the temple, back through the ruins, back to his submersible. His hands shook as he engaged the ascent engines. Through the viewport, the Bound King's throne room receding into darkness. A prison, a seal. Something that had once been human, now merged with volcanic glass, holding back forces that would dissolve reality itself. And desperate enough to attack Atlantis for volunteers it couldn't force. Desperate enough to make threats it clearly didn't want to carry out. Desperate enough to let him go despite needing him to stay. Nereus activated every recording device in the submersible, documenting everything. He corrupted his emergency beacon transmission deliberately, making it look like equipment malfunction while ensuring someone would notice the attempt. He began encrypting his journals using keys only his children could solve, burying the truth in layers they'd have to work together to unravel. If they killed him, when they killed him, at least Renan and Thea would have this. The coordinates, the research, the truth about what waited in the deep and what their father had died trying to prevent. He broke the surface as dawn climbed higher. The city spread above him on its 7 tiers, beautiful and fragile and utterly unaware. Nereus looked up at the archive towers where Renan would be waking, at the training grounds where Thea would be finishing her drills. His children, soon to be orphans, soon to inherit a mystery he wouldn't live to explain. "I'm sorry," he said to the empty submersible, to the morning light, to children who couldn't hear him. "I'm sorry I can't protect you from this, but maybe I can give you the tools to protect yourselves." He began the final encryption sequence on his journals as the submersible docked. By the time Lieutenant Casa met him on the platform, the case was sealed. 6 hours exactly, she said. Her eyes were red. "Keep it safe," he told her. "No matter what happens, promise me." "I promise." She kept that promise. 6 days later, after Captain Nereus Meridian was declared dead due to equipment failure, after the Council launched and quickly closed their investigation, after they recovered an empty pressure suit with perfect seals, Lieutenant Casa delivered the encrypted journals to 2 grieving children who didn't yet understand what their father had died trying to tell them. In the Black Spire Rift, in a temple that officially didn't exist, the Bound King sat on his throne and waited. Alone. Still holding back entropy. Still desperate for volunteers. Still waiting for the Meridian children to stand where their father stood and make the choice he made. The deepening had begun. And that's where we'll leave Captain Meridian for now. Next time, we meet his children, Renan and Thea, who I have a feeling is going to be my favorite. Same nook, same lamp, same open invitation. Come back soon. And if you'd like a quiet nudge when the next chapter surfaces, you know where the buttons are.